Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Ceres Podcast. In today's episode of the Pod Squad, I'm joined by David Miller, Kelly Barnes and Mark Petrou, with David Nicolau away till after the summer holidays. The conversation covers a broad mix of current issues affecting fish and chip shops and hospitality businesses, including stock updates and the falling potato prices and growing pressure around statutory sick pay and whether employers should carry the cost of sickness or injury outside work, and the impact complaints can have on staff morale and a business when teams are working hard. We also discuss farm cod and what developments in Norway could mean for the trade, industry awards, the effect of extreme temperatures on both trade and working conditions, dynamic staffing, and how flexible rotas could be key when businesses go quiet. So we have a lot to talk about in this episode, so we hope you enjoy it. And before we get into it, just a quick one from us. Cleaning is one of those things that often gets overlooked. It's because it's just one of those things. And we don't really think about it until something's dirty or it becomes a problem. At Ceres, we've built a simple cleaning system around three core products: a heavy-duty degreaser, a professional descaler, and a non-caustic but very powerful deep fry cleaner, all designed specifically for our industry. Each one has a very specific role: breaking down grease, removing limescale, and keeping fryers running clean without damage or unnecessary downtime. Fact is, you've spent a lot of money on that frying equipment, you want to get more years out of it. No overlap, no confusion, just three products that cover what actually matters in a busy working environment. Our job at Ceres is to create solutions for some of the hardest tasks inside your business, and we've got you covered on the cleaning side. We're always expanding our range as well, so keep an eye on www.ceres.shop, and remember, we offer free mainland UK shipping. And before we let you go, one final thing. We recently added a new review feature to the Ceres website, and if you leave a product review, because they're all verified reviews on our website, we'll automatically enter your name into a draw to win £100 of store credit. George Morey from Knight's Fish and Chips in Glastonbury was our recent winner. He left a great review on the Predus number 2. It's really important to know that all of our reviews on the website are from verified purchases. If you haven't bought it, you can't leave a review. So do leave us a review. It's really important to us, and you could win £100 worth of store credit. I hope you enjoyed this Pod Squad episode with me, myself, Kelly Barnes, David Miller, Mark Petrou, and David Nicolau will be back after the summer holidays.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here.
Mark said that he's here, but he's not prepared. I thought he's going to be prepared. He's going to bring all his good stuff today, I can tell.
Yeah.
It's,
keep thinking that. You'll find out.
Is everyone feeling nice and sweaty, or is it a bit cooler today?
It's a bit cooler here, although my son stole my fan out of my office, and so, yeah, I'm going to strangle him shortly.
Oh, that's nice. Well, we were going to do this last week, but luckily we didn't in a way because it was really warm and David Miller was on antibiotics. And I think it just didn't land right. I think everyone was just like, it wasn't really working. So I thought, you know what, I wasn't even feeling it, to be honest. I had the paperwork in front of me and I was just like, and I was sort of waiting for someone to say, should we postpone? And in the end, it was me. So I was just like, yeah, I'll take the lead here. So
I had a terrible weekend just prior to that. My brother had an accident with a deck chair. And it was as bad as you can imagine it would be with a deck chair. And these things that they shouldn't have ever been invented. If they were invented now, they'd be banned because it's just a guillotine, a wooden guillotine, and you
for
use
what
your
part of the body is it? A guillotine?
Let's not even go there. Let's not even go there.
Jeez, naked deck chairing at your house.
Well, he was between shifts. It was a Saturday, and he had a little afternoon ziz in the sun, and when he woke up, he decided he was going to try and get out of this deck chair, and he basically took 2 fingers off with this deck chair using his whole body weight, and he's on drugs as well to stop clotting because he's got a blood clot in his leg at the moment. So
God's sake! So
that wasn't helpful then.
You couldn't imagine it. So he couldn't use his phone because he's using his good hand to hold his other hand together.
God.
Yeah, and he'd just woken up, so he didn't even know where he was. It was quite horrific. But a few hours in A&E and some stitches and super glue, and he was back in time to collect his wages. So there was a happy end to the story, but it was really not very good.
Well, give him our regards, won't you, please?
I will. The thing is, I bought him that deck chair for his 50th birthday. So it's my fault.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, before we carry on, David Nicolaou's not with us today because he's just got a few things to juggle, and he's going to have the summer holiday off, and he's going to come back to us, I guess, August is summer holidays, September onwards, all being well. But yeah, it's just us, the foursome today.
Fab Four.
The Fab Four. What were we before then?
The Fantastic
Five.
All right,
the famous five.
The famous five. Yeah, well, that's a good one. Well done, guys. I never thought of any of that. So, generally, speaking, how's it all been? Like, just give us all a little update on how the last week's been, because I'd imagine you've all probably not been enjoying the heat, but trade would have been good for you, Kelly, with the heat, I guess.
Yeah. Really, really busy. Like, absolutely mental. Oddly though, like Monday, Tuesday. I don't know about you guys, I'm sure it's been the same all over. Monday, Tuesday night, the horrible tropical heat overnight, can't sleep. Everyone's, to be fair, my team have been incredible. Not one, we've offered them different breaks. So we've been like, do you want like your break split, or do you want to take more breaks more often? Like, what do you want? And we've kind of put it in their hands. They all wanted their 20 minutes, but if we felt they were flagging at any point, we were just like, crack on and just let us know, and we'll send you out for some, I wouldn't say fresh air, just something.
Just not
warm inhalation and some water. But yeah, trade's been really, really good. Yeah, really good.
And David Miller, how does that work for you when the heat gets like that? Are you still, I know you're no good. Okay.
No. We're down quite a lot, but that it's expected. But we'll make it up as the season goes on. We'll make it up somewhere. We usually do,
and obviously my family shops and a lot of customers are all like what I call inland shops as well. So I get that from them. They're all like, oh, it's dead. The pubs are busy. Seasides are busy. And it does happen. I think the pubs tend to pick up a fair bit. But then they also, a lot of the pubs don't. They lose out when everyone else is doing okay as well. So, yeah, I feel for them. So, Mark, how's it been for you, mate?
Doo-doo. It's awful. We get busy just as we want to go home.
Yes, yeah.
When it's cooler.
So there's definitely a shift, and there seems to be a temperature, and when it's above that, people don't want to eat, and as soon as it starts to cool down, they do. I know the coastal shops are busy because of the relationships I've got with coastal shops, so I know my customers are going there because I'm an hour from the beach, so people are finishing work and going to the coast. So my Friday this week was half of what I did the week before, half. And so to have your Friday trade cut in half, I didn't half the labour, but I did give, I invited people to take some time off. But I know we're going to talk about staffing later on, so I won't dive deep into that. But yeah, my other business, which doesn't sell fish, my online kitchen, is up. But we stay open later and we deliver. So it's all about convenience. And
so I can stay home and order a pizza and a burger.
Yeah, smash burger or pasta or jacket potato or whatever. And
I suspect it's not the fact that you don't sell fish, because if you did sell fish, I think they'd order that too. But I think what helps is the fact that it's being delivered and it's later. Yeah. So that's really propping the other business up. So it's perfect.
I think as well, Marcus, for us that go quiet, and for you, Kelly, as well, if you're out the door, it's getting that stock right, isn't it? Not having loads left for the next day, so you're not like into like 8 o'clock and you still got stuff. That's the art, isn't it, of not overloading your shop and trying to predict what you're going to take. And I think that's the difficult one, because obviously in the heat it all deteriorates, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There was one shop that got in touch with me and he was like, oh, I've halved my menu for this purpose. And I was like, but it made me think also, like, if you've halved your menu, are you carrying too large a menu in normal times?
Yeah.
Because if you can't get to it when it's steady, and you definitely can't do it when it's quiet, something's wrong, isn't it? Like, I think times like this, these stresses make you reevaluate everything. Are you either carrying too much stock, too little stock? And you're right, there's a balance to be had, isn't there?
My spud guy rang me and said, have I done something wrong? I mean, I've been with the same spud guy for like decades, and he said, you've not ordered any spuds. I said, I haven't fucking sold any, mate. But he's like, I'll be digging new next week. I can bring some for you to look at. And I'm like, it's, the old ones are holding up. I can wait. I can wait for the. I just need footfall. I need people to be hungry, and that's I can blame you, but then I'm just kidding myself.
Yeah, it is a really difficult situation. You're right. In terms of you just don't know what it's going to bring. Like I said, Monday and Tuesday last week, I expected it to be through the roof, and it wasn't. And I think the thing is, it gets to that point, doesn't it, where people just. When you're talking at like nearly 40 degrees, it's just too much for anybody.
Yeah. I did far less chips, and I did probably a sack of spuds just in case it was busier than I thought it was going to be, and I needed to turn some into chips quickly. But you cut your cloth accordingly, don't you?
Yeah.
And I saw a few shops online that got caught out with having too many chips, and then they'd leave them in water overnight. And that mistake always makes me chuckle, because there is nothing more vile than that smell of chips that have been left in water overnight that have almost steeped and simmered. And you get, so we've all done it, and you see it now, and you're like, you won't do that again, because it does. It's revolting. That smell is revolting. And I think
my team did it last week at Exeter, because James is obviously, he's been in the trade for a long time, but he's not. We normally control when the heat's here, but the team do most of that now. And James literally walked in and he went, "The potato man, you need to have a word with him. Look at these chips he's cut." I was like, "That's the heat. They are literally cooking in water." I was like, "You need to bin them."
It reminds me of people with their own hot tubs at home. I never go in other people's hot tubs. It's like, for me, it's like family soup. If somebody says, "Oh, come round and come in the hot tub," I'm like, "No, I haven't shaved my legs," or I just find a reason not to go. Yeah. And that's because I've seen chips that have been in water overnight, warm water overnight, and I think that's not for me. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Have I overshared? Sorry if I have.
No, and to take that analogy a little bit further, one of my other pet hates, this is within a fish and chip shop, and my dad used to do this, they'd soak the peas and they'd cook the peas in the soaked water. My dad would never wash them, and that's why growing up I never liked peas. So he'd soak the peas in the water, never wash them, and then just add loads of green dye, which he doesn't do no more. Well, he's retired, but they use pea seasoning now. And
so if we've got any listeners left, the conversation will move on.
But no, I always liken it to drinking your own bathwater after you've been in it. That's I don't like. So, but I get feeling like that. The kids have got the pool out in the garden, and my wife says to me, "Oh, we're not home on Saturday. You just get in it." And I saw loads of fluff in it, and I was like, "Nah, it's all right, thanks. I'd rather not." And that's my own kids. So.
Chuck some carrots and some potatoes in there.
Yeah. So, David Miller, let's jump into your market report. Let's get right in at the beginning, and then we can get into more interesting things. No, only joking. Go on, you tell us, mate.
Okay, so fish. Let's start with fish. So most of the Icelandics and the Norwegian boats are done. The quotas are finished. The gear, that's the Norwegian boat, that's in for summer. So that's going to be in for 3 months. Not too sure, as I say, if all the Icelandics have finished, but the quotas are coming to the end. So they've caught everything. So everything we've got is already either ready to come to us or not. One big thing, of course, is the Russian is nowhere. That's not coming into the market and won't be sometime soon. And that does have a massive effect on what we're doing. There's no fillets of cod. So speaking to a few of my suppliers, there's no fillets of cod. There is 1632s, and if you have got some put away, good on you. But if you're trying to buy it now, you're going to be struggling to get your fillets, like your 8 to 10s or 10 to 12s. All you're going to get is your 1632. So get your knives out, get them sharp, make sure they're sharp before you cut. Haddock, there's good quotas on haddock. That's coming in, so that's your alternative fish. Again, going to hake, pollock, those quotas are nearly finished. And in fact, off the South African coast, they actually can't find it. That's the hake.
So they can't find the coast or the hake?
Both. No, they can't find the hake, and the quota's coming to the end. So that's it. So we're waiting for...
So does that mean there's going to be a shortage on hake? Is that what you're saying there?
Yes, okay. Yes, the hakes. That's what, one supplier has told me.
Okay.
And again, with pollock, because we've all shifted onto it, and we're all having a go at it, so we're going to use them stocks up. Haddock, there's going to be plenty of haddock about, so that's your alternative fish if you do cod. But again, like I've always said before, if you're a cod area and you go on to haddock, it is a very different fish, and how that sits with your customers is a difficult one. So that's just the way it is, and the quotas are the quotas. They aren't going to change much next year either, and I think the quotas are already out to say what they're doing. They're all down a little bit, so it's going to be pretty similar. Now I'm going to say something that maybe you might not all agree with, but what if I said to you that if we agreed with the fishermen that are we paying the right price to keep them happy, to keep us happy, and we need to maybe catch up, could we lobby the fishermen somehow to maintain the price for us over these next 2 years to let us catch up? Because we need them to keep producing fillets. Now, a lot of them are turning to H&G because it's easier, quicker. If we won't pay the price, they'll do H&G, so it becomes a bigger problem for us. I'm just putting that out there as I say, because it is a big commodity. It's an expensive commodity. It's not going to come down. I think we all realise that, don't we? We're not going to get back to where we were 4 years ago. So if we sort of said, right, that's what we're paying, if we could get a sort of understanding that between the Norwegians, the Icelandics, who bring a lot of the stuff in. I know the fresh comes from the coast, and that's a different ballgame, but a lot of us use frozen at sea. If we were to say that, okay, we'll agree on this price, can we guarantee it for the next 2 years so we can actually get caught up with our pricing? What do you think to that, guys?
Can I go first, guys?
Yeah.
Just my only concern is just thinking about what you said. I'm not having a concern. It's just a logistical problem. I guess the biggest inputs for the vessel owners are capital equipment, so the vessel, but that's fixed. That's not changing. And then you've got, I would imagine, diesel and wages. So if you're going to hedge anything, that's what you're hedging, because obviously there's no other costs are going at. Well, there's probably other costs that I'm not aware of, but that I know of, there's no other costs that are going to go up or down. So I guess the only way they'd ever keep the price the same is if they could hedge those two inputs.
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd hedge the price of diesel at the minute, because that's the most volatile over diesel and petrol. Yeah, look, in theory, I think it's good, but I think that for a long time, talking to fish wholesalers, merchants, whatever you want to call them, they've always said it's been hard to pin down the vessel owners to keep making fillets, because I remember when I went to Norway, and you've been more recently, I remember them saying something like, in order to just catch big fish only or H&G, they need like 1/3 of the staff, and they're out for like, I don't know, half the time or something. So the costs of H&G are considerably less than fillets, because fillets now you need people on the ship filleting and so on and so on. So I don't know.
16 as opposed to 28 crew.
A
crew member is usually around 90 grand a year. And it is dangerous, guys, so don't think that, it's a dangerous work out there. So that shot up quite a bit. And I think, let's say I was a boat owner doing H&G, and Kelly had was getting fillets, and we were having a chat, and you said, well, we made 5 million more. We made 5 million extra last year doing H&G. What are you doing fillets for? And that's like we talk. Yeah. And you go, did you really? I said, yeah, we made 5 million more. Oh, well, we'll have a go at that. And do you know what I mean? This is what we're up against. So.
I think, they're always going to optimize their market, aren't they? That's what we talk about on these podcasts all day long, how to optimize your businesses. So, like, if you could figure, like, let's use Kelly as an example. Kelly, the other day, you were saying you were really round. If you could figure out a way to serve 6 more customers an hour with your most profitable item, would you would you say, well, no, we can't do that. That's unethical. Well, we no way we're doing that. No. We're going to carry on doing things the way we've been doing it because we don't want to upset anybody. You're not going to do that. You're going to say, I want to serve those 6 extra customers. And I know it's not a like-for-like scenario. I get that. But I think everyone's got to optimize for their own business. And I think that's why, but I get where you're coming from, by the way.
I'm just chucking it out there just to say, let's think about where we are and not moan. How can we make it work for us? And if we could somehow get stabilisation in prices, because COD's gone up again, hasn't it? COD's gone up, If we could stabilise it and know we're in it for a bit, they might go, well, okay, if the guys are going to pay this for us, we will do fillet production.
I think that, in theory, I think that was a great idea. But how much influence do people like Friars and TQ and Smales? How much influence do they have over price? Because I don't know. Genuinely,
it's never been tried before, has it?
No. You've got so many shops. If we, if you were all to sit down and have that conversation, what would that look like?
Yeah.
Well,
it's an idea, isn't it? Well, it's just while I was over there, I brought it up and I got a few nods. So,
the thing is, I think there is I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think it's a very difficult implementation. How do you get everybody at every level to sit around the table? So, right, let's assume you could get our trade body and FASFA, because obviously they're Frozen at Sea Fish Association. So our trade body and FASFA to then sit down. Then you got to sit down with all the vessel owners and all their vested interest. I think there's too many moving parts. That doesn't mean it couldn't ever happen. But then there's also the fish fryers themselves who would never be happy with hedging for 2 years. That's a fact. They wouldn't, because what they'd say is, well, we need to wait for the market to drop, and everybody wants to wait for the market to drop, and the market hasn't dropped. Even against my optimism, I've been nothing but optimistic for the last 2 years, thinking it ain't going to last forever. It's lasted longer than I thought it would, And I think there is a sense of realism that we're all swallowing at the moment. I was being probably far too optimistic about the situation. Now, I did see a post the other day saying someone, I think it was Bobby from Smales, saying something like, we think this may be the peak. And I hope he's right. But how long does it last at the peak? It's hard to know. It's hard to know.
Just an idea. Mark, what do you think?
I think there's a shift in skills about to come.
Yeah.
Do you remember when, as a nation, we went 24 hours, probably a decade or so ago, and supermarkets opened 24 hours, petrol stations, and we became all of a sudden this 24-hour society. And we've shrunk back from that now because corporations started to realise we're not actually making any money while we're open 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I think as an industry of fish and chip shops, there's a load of fish and chip shops out there that don't have the skills to handle fish that isn't skinless and boneless and portioned. And I think we're going to see a shrink back where if you've got those skills, they're actually going to make you more profitable as a business than those that haven't, because there are some people that just don't know how to handle a piece of fish that's got bone in it and skin on it and a head attached to it. And if that's all that's in the marketplace going forward, it's going to be a problem. It almost a sort the men out from the boys kind of scenario. Who do we get round a table to discuss the idea of preserving a supply line of fillets?
Yeah.
Well, that's got to be FASFA. I mean, they are the Frozen at Sea Fillets Association, aren't they? Not Fish Association. We've not heard anything from FASFA, since before price rises started to go up. So it'd be interesting to see if they've got any comment to make about this. In their
defence, though, Mark, I don't think we've ever heard anything from them before. I guess. I'm not knocking them. I mean, in their defence, I didn't want people thinking that's a negative. I just mean we've never really heard from them. They're very inward. I think they're very inward looking, as in they don't really talk to fish fryers. They talk to vessel owners, if that makes sense. They're pointed that way, not this way, in my opinion.
Anyway, going on to potatoes or chips or whatever we're using, what you've got to understand, a lot of growers haven't got confidence anymore in growing potatoes. So right across Europe, including the UK, we're probably down 10-15% of production. So what we've got to think about is the people that are still growing, again, they need to have confidence they're going to make money. So The price, I'm on new. I started on new on Saturday. They're roughly the same price as what I'm paying for old crop. Now, there's still plenty of old crop to left. There's a glut of them, but some are in good nick and some of them are on the last legs. So be very careful what you're buying. The dry matter's very high. But as I say, the news coming through, the weather conditions are good. The forecast for the weather's good. So they will drop. But again, they'll stabilise because the farmers need to be making money to have the confidence to grow again for next year. So you're not going to see £5 a bag or anything like that. It's going to maintain around where it is. You might get it a couple of quid cheaper, but it's going to maintain. But as far as they're concerned for the new crop coming in, the conditions have been excellent. So we should be on for a really good crop of new potatoes. Again, this weather won't have helped with it being too hot. I know a lot of them are irrigated at the moment. And I'll give you an update on the main crop coming through. So I think for the potatoes, well, it's looking good, and the weather conditions have been great. But don't expect in half prices; they're going to roughly stay around the same. So I don't know if you guys have heard anything like that from your suppliers.
Yeah, everything looks really good in the fields. Where I am in the Fens, which is right in the middle of potato growing country, we've had some really nice rain as well as glorious sunshine. They are irrigating as well. The farmers are, this is a well-rehearsed thing for them. I do expect they're to be less grown because I think that one of the biggest challenges in farming is people coming out of farming and other people and not new people coming in. Farmers' kids don't want the farms. Farmers are struggling to sell their farms, and I think the inheritance tax issue that has been resolved was dreadful for farming. My customers are farmers as well, so
yeah,
there's not a lot of positivity in the farming business.
No. Do you know what a lot are doing, especially in our area? There's a farm called Fridlington Farms, which is a massive, massive company. They own like a corporation as well, but the main farm is huge. They've turned one of their barns into a paddle court.
Wow.
And they are turning serious money over. And they've just built another one and another one.
It's crazy, isn't it? How we talk, we were literally just talking about versatility and the things you've got to do to transform and move forward. And, why not? I mean, you're in areas where you only get those things normally in the city, don't you? Your nearest is, half an hour away. And
middle of nowhere.
That's great.
It's packed. So like it was farm shops to turn into that amazing sort of thing now. So very clever. So that's my report. I think as Mark says, you've got to be expected to probably start cutting a bit. It will come back, don't worry, it will come back, but just at this time, all the quotas are in, most of the boats are in, and just ready to go at the next session.
One thing I wanted to discuss, guys, and it all falls in, because David, a similar story happened to you a few weeks after, but I got a message from a friend, and he wasn't too happy about this new SSP situation. And it came to him as a bit of, I think he was always following it and watching it, but no one really knows how it goes until it affects the business. So I had a message from a friend, owns a fish and chip shop, and it shows how where someone, a politician, civil servant, has a good idea, but they don't know how it works as a real world issue. So he sends me a pay slip of an 18-year-old part-time employee. I'm going to keep the business and employee anonymous for obvious reasons. And it's not the point here. The point is the system, not the people involved. This employee usually works around 12 to 14 hours a week over 3 days in a particular week. They had booked the Friday off because it's sort of like end of school celebrations or something. They were due to work the Saturday, roughly a 4.5 hour shift, but they phoned in sick a couple of hours before the shift. Now, no one can prove whether she's genuinely sick or not that it matters. We're not going to sit here and say she was definitely pulling a sickie, but the employer's suspicion was that she probably was. Hot weather, hangover, all of that. The payroll result was the interesting part. The employee was paid for 6 hours work, 3 hours holiday, and then SSP was added. Because of the new rules, SSP now applies from day one, and low-hour workers who may not previously have qualified are now brought into the system. The missed shift was worth about $49.50 gross. but their employer received about 41 in SSP. So the actual financial loss was for about £8.50, and that's the issue. From the worker side, you can understand the policy. If someone's genuinely ill, especially someone on low pay, they shouldn't be forced between coming into work or being sick and losing a day's income. Nobody wants ill people handling food or standing in a hot kitchen because they can't afford to be off. But from a small employer side, this creates a very obvious incentive problem. The business loses the worker for the shift, has to find cover, may have certain disruption, and still has the payroll cost. The employer, meanwhile, loses very little money. So the employer then starts to think differently. And I always say this about like outcomes and consequences and intentions. The employer's going to start thinking, do I give the young part-timer fewer hours? Do I avoid putting someone on the rota the day after they've booked a holiday for a night out? Do I split 12 hours into 4 shorter shifts rather than 2 longer ones because one missed day costs less in SSP? Do they need much tighter return to work interviews, absence records, disciplinary? So this all adds up. And Kelly, you know about all of this with HR.
Yeah.
And so there is a second order effect. The rule is designed to protect workers, but some employers will respond by making part-time work less flexible, less generous, and more controlled. And this is what policymakers often miss. So what do you guys think about all this?
Can I go first? And I think the reason being is because I it's one of the things, because kind of HR is, I suppose, become part of my main job role now. So although we have a HR consultancy that we use, I obviously pick up a lot of stuff and they send me emails knowing that this stuff is coming in. My first port of call, I'm old school. If someone's been for a night out, I know that obviously all these rules are in place, but there's still nothing stopping me having that person in the office and asking them, you went out last night? I find it hard to believe that you were actually ill. Most of the time you can tell by their face. You know, I still think you've got to keep those lines of communication open. I know it's slightly kind of going off topic slightly, but I think for me, I think you have to have those open and honest conversations and say, look, you know, I don't necessarily believe that you were as ill as you were making out. You know, you went out, you were clearly probably hungover. Am I far off the mark? Asking them those questions, you know, and because I think it will stop it happening again, because it shows that you're not prepared to just sit down and pay them the money. And I think for us, we have, you know, when we had a staff meeting about this before it came into effect, and I told them what was happening. I told them what the government were bringing in, and I told them that sickness wouldn't be tolerated. I don't know about you guys, but you know, we've never done sickness reviews. We're a fish and chip shop. We're old school. We don't, you know, if you're off sick, it's trust, right? It's built in trust. They're part of your family. You let them in. You support them. But actually, we've had to go a little bit more corporate, for want of a better word, and we do sickness reviews, we do sickness policies, and every time they're sick, we do a return to work interview, regardless of whether it's for a day or whether it's for 2 days or however long. We keep a record of that, and if it starts to become a pattern, we go down the disciplinary route, and that's the way we deal with it now. And we've been forced, yes, it's more paperwork, but that's the way we've been forced into dealing with it. What I won't do, and I don't know, someone might shoot me for this, but if I know that somebody is off because they didn't really fancy coming to work that day because they got not necessarily a headache, but you know, if there's no actual reason, and if you don't turn up to work and you can't tell me you've been off sick, it's unauthorised absence. You don't get paid. So if you're off sick and you phone up and you follow protocol, and that's another thing, like lots of people, they'll go, oh, I phone in 2 hours before my shift. Well, you're contractually bound to follow a procedure. They're not following that procedure, you get pulled in on the disciplinary. And it's how you handle it now going forward and not be so lenient like we probably all were sat around this table years ago, and we'd probably let it go and have a bit of a chat and stuff like that.
It's really weird because I had another customer tell me the exact same problem as the other customer a few days after. So already in my circles, it's becoming quite regular. So I do think this is something that we're all going to probably see. Mark, what's your thoughts on it?
I'm kind of with Kelly in that goodwill needs to be a two-way street. No one likes getting mugged off. No one likes it. And there are rules there, and the rules are there to protect the worker, but that there but it needs to protect the employer as well, because, you know, at the end of the day, I think that the employers we're golden geese and we lay golden eggs, and once the geese are gone, there's no golden eggs, then nobody's getting fed. And these types of policies, these new policies, are not why we voted governments in. They're not protecting anyone. All they're trying to do is get rid of cash, make that culture of cash in hand working disappear. They're trying to make the system harder to fiddle. Not that chip shops do that anymore anyway, but that's the real motivation and the drive behind this. They're not trying to win votes. They're not trying to make things better for employees or employers. They're trying to reduce how much shrinkage there is in.
I suspect they are trying to win votes. I suspect that if you're saying to a portion of the population, you know, if we assume that some of those people who are genuinely ill, they're going to get support. But there's a subset of people which will be malevolent and say, well, I don't need to go to work today. I'm still going to get paid.
Ultimately, it's going to cost jobs.
In the long run,
that's the long and short. Yeah, in the long run, it's going to cost jobs, and it's going to breed a culture where there is no goodwill left. An employee actually ends up being valued less by an employer. The relationship between employer and employee breaks down, and it becomes you end up stopping being a person and start becoming an asset. And it's driving small businesses to start having to behave like big businesses. And that doesn't work, because small businesses work on small margins and have small turnover. You know, it's hard enough having to learn how to take the guts and heads off fish that we never had to do, that we have to jump through all these paper hoops as well. It's, you know, all it does is it adds more pressure to the shop owner, in my opinion, and will end up creating a culture of resentment. That's my thoughts.
I'm sort of convinced that that's what this government wants, in the sense that I don't think they want to close business. I don't think I'm that negatively minded, but I think what they do want is for all landlords to become institutional landlords, like Lloyd's or a big housing association. They want small businesses to become, whether in size or operationally, like a big business, where they're bogged down with paperwork and they've got all of this sort of like all these systems in place. And I think that's where they're leaning towards. So I can see why people say, oh, they want business to close. I would argue that they want business to evolve to the point where small business is like a big business, and big business is even more responsible, and everybody's carrying the burdens of the state. That's the way I see it. I might be wrong, or again, maybe I'm leaning a bit too optimistic there, but I actually think they want everyone to notch up a tier. So they want the small business to become SME, and they want SME to become big, and they want everyone to do their work.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was saying, but you put it so much nicer.
I think you make a valid point to some degree, but I don't think it's, you know, and I don't think it's as blunt as they want to get rid of cash or they want to do that. I think consumers want rid of cash in that sense. I don't see anybody walking around with cash on them no more, if we're using that argument. But I think they want. I think when
it's only part of it.
Yeah, I think when I see what governments do on the property side, you know, residential lettings, I think what they want is institutional investors or big companies renting. They don't want singular landlords, and I think that if you span that across every part of the government, the country, they want small traders, but they want small traders to act like big traders. And I think that's the difference. And they're going to basically say, we don't care whether you're a small business or large business. If you're employing people, this is the cost. And whereas a few years ago, maybe there was a distinction between large business and small business, you know?
Yeah. They haven't got a clue is what you're saying.
Yeah. Or maybe they do have a clue and they know what they're doing.
Well,
they're
just going to have high streets full of empty shops.
Yeah. Yeah,
small business is a massive part of the national economy, and if they want small businesses to start acting like big businesses, well,
maybe in their mind
it's not going to happen.
Maybe in their mind, and I'm not defending them. I'm just thinking that maybe we always assume that government doesn't know what they're doing? What if they think this is the new pay to play? This is the new price to pay. Like, if you're going to be in business because you're so rich, because that's how they probably see business people. If you're a left-leaning government, you see business people as loaded regardless. If they look at the likes of us four and think you're all business people, you can shoulder the burden. This is the new price to play. I'm not defending them. I'm actually just being honest. What if they know what they're doing, whether we think it's good or not? What if it isn't? Oh, they must be crap. Yeah. I don't know. We always think that government don't have a clue, but what if this is their intention?
Well, they're just the sort of government that would win with a massive majority and lose their prime minister after 2 years.
Everywhere now. Yeah. So, David Miller, what's your thought on this SSP scenario?
Can I do an advert? There's a really nice shop for sale 5 miles north of York. If anyone would like to put some offers in, it's up for sale now. No, it came to a shock as me. I knew it was coming, but basically we've had somebody come to us, fallen off the bike, been off sick 2 days, nothing to do with work, and requested holiday pay. So obviously we looked into it, got in touch with our HR, like you do, Kelly, and whatever, and of course we have to pay them. So what we're doing now is, like you, Kelly, we're getting all our protocols sorted out, making sure everybody knows what we're doing. We're going to probably do a back to work, why we were off, what was wrong with you. Obviously, get intel from the staff, because staff do have intel on other staff, don't they? They are your prime people to ask. And I think, we're looking at the thing as if somebody's had, let's say, 1 day off 3 times in the month, that could end up being a warning. And I think you've just got to protect yourselves. It's here to stay. It is law, so you've got to make sure you know what the law is. If you are members of any organisation, use those avenues you've got there. Or is it possibly worth just getting in touch with a HR company if you've never done it before to make sure you're correct and get everything in place and try and get yourself protected as much. But the law is, from day one, if they're ringing sick, they're entitled to holiday pay, entitled to sick pay. And that's it. What do we do about that? But I think, as Mark says, you're going to be suspicious of your staff. You're going to be really double-checking references, aren't you? You're going to probably have a probation longer than what it was. So instead of 4 weeks, you might have 3 months. And if they start being sick within that 3 months, you probably don't employ them. So it's going to be tough for us, but it's all going to be tough for the staff, because you're going to be suspicious. You know, if they're genuinely ill, I've not a problem with that, but people do take the piss.
Kelly?
I was just going to say as well, on the back of what David was saying, I would advise people to be very careful when they start hiring, because you were talking about probation periods. So from January the 1st next year, they're bringing in the day one rights. So you are going, if you've got 6 months, essentially, my HR consultants have advised me that we have 5 months, not 6, because by the time you've gone through the protocol of you're not good enough because of X, Y, and Z, it's going to take a week or a week and a half a month and a half by the time you've gone back and forth in meetings and got, your ducks in a row, if they're not the right person. And it's really, like you say, references, check-in, making sure that you're documenting everything, because you can't just anymore go, well, you're not right for us. You've got to have documented evidence to say, well, you're not. Why?
Why?
Go on, Mark.
All I was going to say, and it's, I could not win Fish and Chip Shop of the Year anymore. It's 20 years ago since I won it, but I have a different set of rules when it comes to employing staff. My goodwill is still there for my staff. I buy my staff cars, and I reward them and I take care of them. I know you're a mother hen and you really are invested, and I'm sure, David, you take care of your staff.
Absolutely.
And I kind of like that family business approach. And so when the government gives me a set of rules that I have to stick by, that's fine. I accept it, and I certainly wouldn't encourage anybody else to deviate from that. But that's not how I do business. That's not how I've done it for 40 years. I build houses as well. So I dig footings, and I know where to hide the bodies. So if you come and you put in a shift for me and you're ill, then I'm going to pay you to stay off until you're fit to work. But if you go out on the lash and then you don't turn up the next day, and I get a text message, then I'm not going to pay you. And if you have a problem with that, you come and see me, and then you might just disappear.
Yeah, but I think this is... But in the government's mind, they don't want you lot making these decisions. Yeah. That's the difference. They're basically...
I didn't vote him in.
No, but it doesn't matter. That does not matter. Whether you voted for him or not, like, none of these things matter. And I think this government will always be pro-worker.
But I think the thing that irritates me so much, and, you know, it's going to get a little bit political because this is what's been brought in. I think what irritates me is that, you know, we all moan about VAT and we're all moaning about lower the VAT. They're creating, which is already happening anyway because the benefit system's fraudulent as hell, but they're just adding to it. They're allowing people to phone in sick on day one. They're creating a nanny state. Or it's already been created. They're just adding to it. And it really bloody frustrates me. And I'm with Mark. I am straight down the line, come to work, earn your money. I'll teach you the work ethic that you can carry on for years and years and years. But unfortunately, they are, I think, to a certain extent, the more you get involved in HR, the harder it is. I genuinely believe that. The more you follow the rules, the more you've got to follow the rules. And it just frustrates the hell out of me that decision is being made for me. The same with minimum wage. I pay my staff. I want to pay my staff more, but the government are making it harder for me to pay everyone as I see fit. Yeah. So like you say, maybe that's their plan. They're taking all the decisions away from small businesses.
Well, that is true. Like they like, and I don't mean like, I mean it in the true sense of the word, that maybe this is their goal. We think it's a shit show. Maybe they don't want you making the decisions. Maybe they want to make the decisions, or at least setting a mandate for you.
Well, we haven't got the decision, have we? If somebody rings in sick, you've got to take it. You've got to take it. You've got to take it on face value, and then you've got to start investigating, and then you've got to try and prove it.
Yeah.
And it won't be easy, and it'll cause rifts. It'll upset us with employees. We won't have trust. It'll just break a lot of things down, and that family sense we've got in small shops is going to shatter a bit. And it only takes one to start.
And you end up with robots, then, don't you? You end up with the people that are coming in doing a job. Well, I think somebody else said, I've got a member of staff in Exeter, and he turned around to my manager and said, I get paid more on benefits. And James turned around to him and said, well, go then. Go. That's it.
This is something I wanted to ask the other guys, because we've not talked about this, and it kind of just starts to dip out of the scope of what we're talking about, but it also, I think it has relevance as well. Has any of your staff mentioned about getting their kids diagnosed for autism or ADHD? Because that's all of my staff, not all of my staff. So many of my staff are now trying to get their kids diagnosed because there seems to be this shift towards
pandemic,
loads of free money and benefits and stuff. And I know people who with children that are, have challenges and deserve the support and the help they need. And then I know people that are just trying to lift the government's leg because it seems to be like the latest thing. They want to get the diagnosis. Have you had that at all? Have you experienced that?
I think for me, I've got a lad who works for me who has got ADHD. I know he's got ADHD. He's on the assessment process for, he's nearly 19. No, he's not. He's 20, nearly 21. And I think for me, we had to have a conversation that, I appreciate that you've got ADHD, but that isn't an excuse. You came to me with ADHD and you were working fine in the first 7 months. You can't now change the goalposts just because you've decided to go and get an assessment. And now you decide, well, actually, I'm going to use that as an excuse. It doesn't work like that. We still all have to function as human beings. There's a difference between I've got a diagnosis, I'm getting diagnosed, but you still have to function in a workplace. And I think, again, it comes back down to the sitting down and having those uncomfortable, for a lot of people, conversations to say, I appreciate what you're going through. How can I support you? However, I employed you. You weren't behaving like this when you first came to me. So let's sit down and look at why you're behaving in the way you are. Because actually, I'm not going to let them get away with that sort of stuff. And you're dead right, Mark. It's that same process because their parents are in their ear going, well, my son, he does that because he's got ADHD. It's not my problem. You came to me. I've dealt with ADHD and autism within my workplace. I treat everybody as equal. It's about finding a way that works for them and how we can tailor the job to suit their needs.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it?
There is also an infantilizing of society. So, for example, my brother was saying the other day, I was at a shop having a drink, having a laugh with him, and a woman come in, probably about your age, Kelly, give or take. She had a CV.
21.
She had a CV, 21, of course. Yeah, she had a CV for her 21-year-old child, as she said it. And she goes, oh, my son's really shy. He's in the car, but here's his CV. So my brother just walks around the front and says, look, like, if he can't come in, then we can't do this. And she was taken aback. She goes, well, he can't come in. He's shy. Well, how's he going to work here? So, yeah, look, I don't know. I think this is the way it's going to be for a while. And we're probably going to go for a weird cycle.
I think if it has just passed under your radar and you maybe knew it was coming and you didn't know anything about it, just get some proper advice on it. Don't do
your research.
Yeah.
Don't do it yourself. Yeah. Just get some proper research because it is law. And somebody might be very clever and wipe the floor with you.
Don't follow my advice either.
Kelly recommended a good company to me, and they're called HR Department. So if you're not part of if anybody's listening to this and they're not part of a trade body that offers it, get in touch with someone like HR Department. They're a franchise and they've got lots of local offices. So they might have one in York, Charis, wherever. So they do pay as you go and they do contract.
And they're very good, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
They are very good. And they're not. What I like about them is they're not biased. And I can challenge them. So if I don't agree with the decision that they've made, I will challenge them and say, well, but actually that's not what I want to happen. How can I make this happen instead? And they're great. They're very straight down the line. Like Stel said, you can either do pay as you go or you can buy into it, like a termly contract and, you pay, monthly contract where you have them on call, so to speak, which sometimes I joke about that maybe I should just set up a camp bed in their office.
Well, I guess the more staff you employ, the better off you are just having a contract.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to be tapping into that service pretty much every other day.
Yeah.
And handling staff has always been hard, and now it's set to get harder.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to round this off, though, I just want to just got to be careful, because when we're talking about staffing and everything, we conflate three different things. So first, it's a legal entitlement. If the person is genuinely unfit for work and they do meet the criteria, then SSP is now due, unfortunately, from day one. This is the unfortunate thing, though. The fact the injury happened outside work does not defeat the claim. And I found that out myself. And I said that to you, David, the other day, and you got really annoyed with me because it wasn't the answer you wanted. I've had it where a lad's been off for a week. Well, maybe it was longer, 2 weeks, because he got 2 foot tackled at football. And you think, well, that's got nothing to do with what we're doing here at work, but you can't. Unfortunately, that's not our job. The second part is proof and procedure. For short sickness absence, employees can usually self-certify, which is, again, a big glaring error. This does not mean employers are powerless, though. They can require proper notification, record the absence, hold a return to work meeting, ask questions, like Kelly was saying, and manage repeating or suspicious patterns. And the third is business economics. This bit is the bit that policymakers massively underweight. As always, in a small business, the employer pays twice in practice, once through SSP and once again through disruption or cover. And I think that's the most annoying thing about all of this, where it always was the case, now it is that on steroids a little bit more. And what happens if they want to, in their eyes, improve this policy in a year's time? Like, in government's eyes, what if they want to throw something else out there? And we're going to talk about how they could probably do that shortly. So, moving on, though, David Miller wanted to talk about complaints and how it can affect the business. David, run us through your story.
Yeah, so just, we all know it's been a struggle this last month, hasn't it, with potatoes, dry matter hard, you might have to cook a bit. For me, anyway, it's been. And we've had a few little niggles and a couple of 3-star reviews. And I don't mind saying that, because if anybody says it doesn't happen, you're lying. It does happen, but it's how do you deal with that? And I think, it upsets the staff, it upsets you. It always comes through at a shitty time, doesn't it? Just before you're going to pack off to bed, there it is, bang. And I don't care, it upsets you because you're always trying to do the best you can. And, they're not as good as they used to be. And you get all these little things coming in. And it does upset the staff because you're going, what the hell happened there? What going on? And I think it is very easy for people to do that. Now, the ones that actually get in touch with you by an email or something like that, just wanted to let you know, them you can deal with quite easily. But those ones that come from the dark, and you try and reply to them, and I always say try and reply in 12 hours at least if you can, straight away, and try and get them to get in touch with me or the shop. And if we can get a number, which invariably we have because of the database we've got, I will ring them up personally. Not one of the staff, not managers. I or Nick will ring them up personally and say, hi, it's David. Really sorry about what happened. Could you explain to me what the problem was? And try and get to know them a bit more rather than a sweet short call. Just get, and understand and, what do you think's gone wrong? And asking their advice. And try at some point, well, can I replace the meal, or will you give us another chance? And invariably they will do. And make sure that they're highlighted and they've got the service that they expect and the product they expect. Give it a few days, ring them back and follow it up and go, just checking, was everything okay? Da-da-da-da. And then maybe at the end just say, would you mind reviewing that, that review for us? And invariably they will do. They'll either take it down and just say, it's sorry, or, I was having a bad day. That's half the problem most of the time when complaints come through. And genuinely, you do get it wrong sometimes. I just think it does, in today's world, really hurts. And people do look at stars. And, you get maybe 2 complaints on the bounce. That can take you 6 months to get back to where you were, of 5-star. And I'm just being honest, you look at our reviews, they're really good, and then all of a sudden you might get a 3 chucked in there for some reason. And you go, well, what's all that about? And invariably, it's something that you wouldn't think's a complaint, really. It's like, we got one the other day, it was 4 stars and everything was 5, but they gave us 4. Why? Service was good, atmosphere was good, food was good, whatever else was good, value was good, but they still gave you a 4. Why? Why would you do that?
We got a 2-star review because the price is going up. Not us. They clearly were having a go at the government for prices rising, and they gave me a 2-star review. I'm like, what is the matter with you? And then literally an hour later, I got a 5-star review for the same shop. I think the thing is, people are so frustrated, and I'm sure David Nicolau, if he was here, would fill us all in with that. I think people are just frustrated with the way of the world, and I think sometimes if they've had a bad day, like, don't get me wrong, we do things wrong, like you said, we hold our hands up. Yeah. But if it's too hot, it's too cold. If it, they've somebody's cut them up on the way into the shop. I think we've had this conversation before. Someone's cut them up on the way into the shop. They've had an argument with their husband before they've come out because the husband couldn't decide what he wanted for dinner, and they've had to make the choice again, or vice versa. I think there's so many. The psychology behind complaints would be so interesting to understand and learn. And I think actually it probably make us a little bit less stressed, I guess. There must be some psychology around why people complain. Stelios, I'll leave that with you.
But I just think if you had something genuine, is that because I'm in hospitality myself? I would ring them up and say, just to let you know, they weren't as good as they normally are. Just because I believe in your business. You've always looked after us. You've been a customer for 20 years or whatever. And I just thought you should know. And then you really can take that on board, and they feel worth because they've helped your business in a way. It's a really difficult one, and it'll never stop, I know, but I just thought it was worth bringing up because we live in the real world, and if everyone says, oh, we always get 5 stars, then I don't believe you. Yeah.
I think that there's a couple of points I want to make. One is, if you've got your house in order and you know that what you're doing is top notch, which I know both of you are, then your next step is to have robust procedures on what to do when you get complaints and how you handle those. And if you know that you've got your house in order there, I mean, some of the things I've got, I've got not scripts, but well-trodden paths on how to resolve these things and retain the customer, how to actually impress them with the way that you dealing with their complaint, and And then I've also got in the background, I've got something called Boss Watch, and I put customers on Boss Watch. So, when those orders come through, they have to be overseen by somebody more senior, just as a belt and braces, to make sure that, because we've had an issue with that customer in the past. So, not only have we got robust systems in place to deal with any complaints, but the main point that I want to make is, at a fundamental level, you have to let go. And because you're so invested in your business, a complaint to you feels like almost like a bullet in the chest or a knife in the heart. The reality is, if you took those shoes off and climbed into a pair of consumer shoes, reviews they wash over you. You might read one bad review, but if there's 5 or 6 or 10 or 30 or 50 brilliant ones, it sticks out as a sore thumb, as a rogue. And what I would say to you, Dave, is I know what it must feel like to you, because of how passionate and how you strive for perfection. But if somebody's going to write you a shit one, or give you a 3, or give you a 2, or give you a 4, that's just unfortunately the world we live in, and it won't harm you the way you think it will. It will harm you, but it won't harm your business. It won't harm your business's reputation, because people on the other side of the fence, as consumers, will see it and think maybe they had an off day, or maybe someone's just being an arse. So, try not to hold on as tight as you are is what I would say as a friend.
Therapy, thank you. I feel a lot better now.
I'm glad.
A few points I'd like to make. I rarely read reviews on any business. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. If I'm coming to Miller's, or if I'm coming to Crispy's, if I'm going for a Chinese, I'm more likely to ask somebody I know. When I first moved to the area, my electrician lived in Atherstone, and I said to him, "Where's a good Chinese?" I dropped him a text, and he just said, "Go there," and I went, and it's been all right. I've never left the review. I left one review for my kids' training place. That's it, as a favour. Reviews are weird. I actually think that the fact that they're so low friction now means they're pretty much worthless. And I think people, for a real official complaint, a real one that's warranted, people want to be listened to. David's right. You need a process there that breaks it down. You listen to them. You take their concerns carefully, and hopefully it's a legit thing that you can all learn from, and that you create a customer from that process, because you can do.
And kill them with kindness, and they usually end up going, "Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to
having a diary, a complaints book really helps, because it keeps it written down. You understand.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And again, if you haven't handled that right, you go down. I could have done that better. I've learned from that, and. Again, it's going back to the SSP, isn't it? Make sure you got your protocols in place. And
my favourite phrase is, "We will use this as an opportunity."
And I think one thing, we wrote an article on it ages ago, but one thing customers don't want to see is a non-apology. They hate non-apologies. Don't bother wasting your time being polite if you're just going to say non-apologetic words. They hate it.
Yeah.
God,
I was going to say, it must have been a bad Monday, but probably a few months ago, I used ChatGPT. And I was like, I'll use it. Let's see, because obviously, some of my team are not. How do you put it? Eloquent in the way they write. And they admit it. They're like, what do I write? How do I write it? And I don't want it to come across as condescending. However, this woman, I don't know what it was about her. She just grated on me the wrong way, and I said, just be a little bit cheeky with the reply. She didn't like it. So I learned from my mistake. As ChatGPT to be a bit cheeky. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to send that. Sometimes I just want to have a little bit of fun with it. But
yeah, I think you've got two choices though in business. You can either be passive aggressive like that, or you can just say, I don't feel like I want you in my business. You've got two choices. And a customer of mine who listens to this a lot, I was telling David before we started actually, he had a customer that every week used to go to his restaurant and complain. And he sort of ignored it for a while. And then his staff kept moaning about it because it was happening every week. So he goes up to this is month 3, month 4, I'm not even sure. And he says to her, the meal's on us today, but you're not welcome back here, purely because, I'm paraphrasing somewhat, I'm sure there was more to it, but he says, because we're not good enough for you. You come every week and you complain, so maybe there's somewhere else you'd rather go. Yeah. And she came back the week after, ate her food, and from what we can tell, enjoyed it and carries on coming back. And I think sometimes you've just got to say that you've got to go sometimes and say, maybe we're not good enough for you. Like, maybe this isn't working. And that doesn't mean we've always got it right. But I think I always say, so when you're sending an email or something that's followed, always assume others can read it. So your risk is is that you've sent a snotty one to her, but others read it and they don't have context. They don't know how you're feeling that day. They don't know what you were up against. They don't know what that woman said before. They just see your snotty response. They thought, that's somewhere I wouldn't like to go. I wouldn't be listened if I went there. And that's the risk of being like that, I think. So, every time I send an email, I assume that everyone's going to read it. Because someone can screenshot it now and send it all to their 15 mates and say, what a knob.
Yeah. I mean, she probably did say that, but...
Yeah. One thing we did a while ago for a customer, and we're going to bring them back actually, is a label that basically said, if you didn't enjoy your meal, let us know. Don't leave us a review. Yeah.
Oh, I like that, Stelios.
And one of my customers, it was my brother actually, he'd just had a refit and customers were not happy with the refit. There was too much change. He'd changed the menu, he'd done so much. And he just noticed that his Google reviews were just getting flooded, constantly flooded. And then we've got these labels for him. We put them on and the reviews stopped. And actually people started messaging properly and saying, I came in the other day and this happened. And he got a chance to get on top of it. And I think now people do misunderstand what a review is. It's not a complaints channel. It is a place to review when everything's gone through. And if something's wrong, you pause the review and you go back. That's when you complain. It's a fork in the road. Did everything go okay? Okay, I'll leave a review. Were my issues resolved if I had issues? No. Okay, I'll leave a review. But go get them resolved first. You don't just start dumping on people before you even rang them. I see it so many times. Like they've not, so many times people haven't even tried to resolve their issue and they just go and leave a review. Yeah. David?
You could put on the end of that, couldn't you? You can make us better.
Yeah. I like that, David.
There you go.
I mean, just one last thing. One thing I have done is I've taken off it. I've made it very specific. So if they want to make a complaint, I've put it as feedback. So I've put feedback on at the bottom of my website, and they have to name what time they visited, what shop they visited. I want photos of the food if they've got it. So rather than send an email back and forth, because I tend not to deal with the complaints because sometimes it's, I was missing a sausage, I'd like a refund. So I let the managers deal with it. And then what I want to know at the end of when we have our managers meetings or at the end of the week, I want to know if there's any complaints and any outcomes so that everybody is in the loop, team leaders included. If someone comes into the shop, everybody is aware of what's going on.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add to that is, I mentioned a bit of it on the last pod squad we did. We sometimes give customers no choice to do that outburst because no one wants to leave a public comment on a Facebook page for the most part, but they will if they feel like they have to. But if there's no email address and no phone number on your social media accounts or on your website, they are going to spill out somewhere. It is going to happen. And I see it on so many Facebook accounts that I'm on, that I follow, and you'll see the comment, sorry, I had to do it like this. They'll start like this. However, I came in yesterday and I didn't enjoy a meal. I've sent a Facebook message. No one's responded, and there's no email address and no phone number. And for the most part, you get a response like, oh, yeah, we don't check our messenger. Well, again, what are you expecting? If you've got no channel to communicate your complaint, it is going to become a review. Yeah. So I think you're right to have that information. It's easier. Let us know all the information up front, and we are going to deal with it. We are going to investigate. And David's right as well. Make them feel special. People want to feel listened to. You only have to see what men are like in a barber's, yeah? Like what women are like in a salon. People like to be listened to. They go there and they vent about everything. So, yeah.
If you say you're going to get back to them, by morning, make sure it's, give them a ring at just after 9 o'clock and deliver. Don't leave it till tea time, because as soon as you say, I'll get back to you as soon as I can, they're waiting. Yeah. And 6 hours becomes 24 hours, 12 hours become 48 hours in there.
Sometimes it happens probably at least once a month, but we'll get like a stock query. Someone's ordered product and it may have not got delivered because of DPD or whatever, or it's late or whatever it is, and it'll be like it'll be Friday at 4 o'clock, and I'll always text them saying, I won't call you during tea time unless you really want me to, because I'd never call a shop on a Friday tea time. It's stupid, for obvious reasons. And I'll just say, but if you really want me to, because they may not run the shop or be in the shop, like I will call, and they'll just message back. So I think it's good to have clear lines of communication. It's so important. One thing we try doing, we're not always great at it, is just constantly trying to keep those communication channels open.
Yeah.
That because again, that sets the expectation. Yeah, David Miller, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about farmed cod, and you were in Norway recently because you recently won Outstanding Contribution to the Industry Award, because it wasn't enough being Fish and Chips for the Year winner. You're now better than us again. Actually, you've just caught up with Mark, actually. Sorry, you've just caught up with Mark.
Yeah, I have, actually.
Thanks for
I don't think I'm going to win that award.
Nor me. And, tell us a little bit about... Because
I've had a very nice trip to Norway, really good. But on the last day, we went to a cod farm called Ode, spelled O-D-E. Ode to Excellence, it's called. And we all know that for salmon is readily available in all the retail shops that's farmed. And now this company, with a hell of a lot of investment, has started to actually farm cod in the fjords, in deep water. And we got to try some of it, and it was very, very good. But it's mainly aimed at retail. And some of the supermarkets are actually bringing it in. It's produced in Norway. It's fresh when it comes in. So it's basically, it starts off with a hatchery, and then it's grown, and then it actually goes out to the sea farms, which, as I say, are in the fjords, deep fjords, and looked after, sustainable, everything that we expect the fish and the welfare, and they're fed regularly. And then obviously they're brought and harvested and processed. And they do it after pre-rigger, and it can be got in skin on, skin with, skin off, pin bone in, pin bone out. And they fillet it into different sections and portions. And as I say, that is now getting traction within supermarkets and big chains, household ones, which I won't name because of, being professional. And it is getting traction. So what does that mean to us? Well, does that mean if they're going towards the farm cod, because, again, it's a stable price, which is what I was talking about before, that will leave more stock for us in the fish and chip shop sector? So, interesting. It's in its early days, and obviously when salmon started, that was in its early days, but I think if you go into most supermarkets now, it's all farmed, isn't it? It's all farmed.
Well, the majority,
you don't get... Yeah, majority is farmed. So would you see the same as cod? There
is some buts.
Yeah.
Ethics of this. Some of the farmed salmon is terrible. I don't mean quality. I mean, terribly looked after. There's ringworms and there's other worms, and they're in really tight spaces. Yeah. Could that become an issue with cod? And then could it tarnish cod?
Well, it could still, but I think what they were trying to portray, and we actually went round the control room that feeds them all. So they'll have somebody on a computer screen looking after one net, literally, all day, making sure that everything's all right. How many species in one net? Not species, sorry. How many items, or what do you call it, fishes in one net? I think there's about 10,000. So they're big nets. And welfare was a really big one, a big factor. The nets they've got, obviously protecting them from seals and getting attacked by other predators. Yeah, that sounds good, but that's life, isn't it? Do you get what I mean? Yeah. Bears eat salmon. It's just... Yeah, it's early days still. It's there's obviously some legs in it, and if you'd said that 20 years ago about salmon, you'd have gone, I think what I'm saying now is because of what I know about salmon. That's why I'm saying I didn't know about the salmon problem before the salmon problem. They did say they've learnt a lot from farming salmon, and that they've taken a lot on board to make sure that the welfare, because that was a question somebody brought up. What about the welfare of the cod? And it was a big thing. Mark?
So when you were in Norway, I think you were there with the editor of Fast Food Professional magazine, Athol Dippel.
Yes.
Athol stayed on an extra day and went to the cod farming place.
Yeah.
And I know it's featured in the magazine. So if you want to know more about it, just look up Fast Food Professional magazine on Facebook or go to their website, and I know that he's featured it heavily. So he said to me it was fantastic what they're doing.
Hell of a setup.
The investment, the quality, and it's certainly something for the future. I mean, if they've looked at the welfare of the salmon and they've incorporated, they've learnt from it, and if they've factored that in and they've made improvements and they've got the welfare right, and that's a good thing. Anything that's going to mean there's more sustainable cod coming into the market has to be encouraged and considered a good thing, right? It's positive.
I think one of the I think what we'll see is, I think again, intentions are what drive you can tell by intentions are driven by the outcomes. So I think at the minute it'll be okay. Salmon was okay at the beginning. But if you scale this thing up and it becomes a premium item, I get what David's saying. It releases pressure on cod, farmed cod, wild caught. Sorry, it releases the pressure there, which is good. And now it's good for them to do it because the price of cod is high. Yeah, obviously there's something for them to work towards. And whilst cod prices were low for a long time, no one really wanted to do it because there's no benefit for them. So. But again, like anything, we've got to fast forward 20 years and see what actually happens. And if the fish prices were to come back, then you'd see if it's worth it anyway. But yeah, it's interesting.
Unbelievable investment.
Absolutely. You're not going to do that on the back of a cigarette packet. That's it's going to be a big investment.
And everything they use, like product lists, liver, heads, cheeks, tongue, milt, stomach, everything gets used. Everything goes to use. So, and one thing they did say is that the price will be stable. So, and I think that's the point I was making before.
But if the price is stable, that means they choose the price. Is that right?
But we'll see. It's early days. But I never even thought that you'd farm cod, salmon, yeah. But to actually be told that they're starting to farm cod was a bit of an eye opener for me. And I just thought it'd be nice for people to hear, and it's great to know that Athol is probably doing an article on it, and I look forward to reading that. Because as if he spent another day there, did he go out on the ships to have a look where the feeding stations were?
Yeah, he went out. He walked. He went out onto the nets as well. He walked out and looked at the whole operation. He was pumped about it.
Yeah,
we had a good chat when he got back. He's on holiday in Cornwall at the moment. Yeah,
nice. Kelly Barnes, moving on to you, young lady. You recently went to Manchester, which is another reason why we definitely postponed the podcast, because on Monday you went to Manchester to the English Fish and Chip Awards. What did you make of said awards?
Do you know what? It was good fun. It was really good fun. And I think the people that won will do a lot with them. They're obviously very different shops, I think, to the shops that enter the NFFF Awards. I think they seem to be smaller, probably husband and wife, more husband and wife run businesses. I think their protocols are probably very different to ours. I think, I've obviously been through the whole awards process. God, nearly 10 years in a row we went through it, and each time it seemed to get more and more and more rigorous. And I think this is mainly, from what I could gather, mainly customer focused, and they get voted by their customers. So that's obviously, it's really nice. And I guess the awards itself was what I would class as chaotic, but fun. And I think, the people that won those awards, clearly their customers felt that they deserved to win, and that's what's important.
Mark, you've been to the Scottish Awards, which is the sister company of this, and you had them on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
So I had tickets to go, but unfortunately my brother had his deck chair. He was my plus one, and I had to pick up quite a lot of fingers and his workload as well. So I really wanted to go, but sadly I couldn't. And I'm glad that it delivered, because the Scottish event it's brilliant. Take away the gala, the evening, the fun, the partying, which is so worth it, and the meal, which is always really good as well, really good food. Take all that away, what you've actually got is something that filters down to local level. Every shop that picks up a certificate has got something for their audience, for their customers. And that's where this thing really works at a local level. I don't think nationally it will have caused a ripple. And we have other awards in the marketplace that reach a different type of different audience, and has a different level of robustness to the judging and more prestige and all of that. And I said, when I had these guys on, that it wasn't going to compete, and it was never meant to compete. But what it does do is it gives us more exposure, more winners, more. It's great for fish and chips, which has to be applauded. It's a good thing, and I think it's found its place straight away. I think there was room for it. I maintained that from the start. It's at a different time of year. Yeah, fair play. My feedback was that it was like an awards truck had crashed into the KFE ball.
I would say it was a real celebration of fish and chips. That's and very, very different. I think the sponsors at the national level of the Fish and Chip Awards as we know it, those sponsors probably invest lots and lots and lots more money, and they're just very different levels, but there's nothing wrong with them. It was I think for me it was 440 people in a room all talking at once and dancing and singing. It was interesting and crazy, but great.
Lots of familiar faces. I was really, really sorry I couldn't go, but I'm looking forward to Scotland in November.
I was told anecdotally from a few customers that they'd book big tables. Like one of my customers booked the table of 10, another one booked the table of 10. So they were going for a party. Whether win or no win, they were going for a good time.
It was the Christmas party in June.
Yeah.
For their staff.
And you know what? That's got to be a good thing. Like go blow off the cobwebs,
There was more chip shop owners there than I've seen at
anywhere else.
The Scottish one was full of chip shop owners, so that's good.
They had a lot of staff. Sorry, David. There was a lot of staff there, which I thought was very nice. Like they'd obviously taken their staff on a Monday, and they'd taken them as part of a night out. However, 38 degrees in Manchester was not the one.
Let's hope they're not claiming sick the next day,
eh? An award's an award, and you can shout about it, can't you?
Absolutely. It's how you market it at the end of the day, isn't it?
And it makes you feel great, makes your staff feel great, and your community are in with it. And
absolutely.
And there's nothing better than bringing like-minded people all together in one room, and you make friends, don't you? And
could the flip side be that something like this is also circular, so that it makes these people that entered want to enter the other awards, and the other and the people that entered the other awards want to enter this award, and then hopefully that gives them the confidence to just keep going around in that loop.
Coleman's entered these awards.
Yeah.
They're Temple and
Yeah.
Ocean Road, isn't it? I think. Is it Ocean Road, Mark? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some big names in there. That Squires, they won their region, and I just think it's how you market it. And Tea Quality being the main sponsor, obviously they've got a relatively big name that everybody knows in our industry. There was lots of people in that room that I'd never heard of, and including the sponsors and the judges. I think it's a celebration of fish and chips. And is it Warren Paul? Is that his name?
Yeah. Warren.
Yeah.
And there was some that have won at the National Fish and Chip Awards entered as well. So as you say, it filters both ways.
Well, look, we've got 3 national winners here on this podcast, and there can only be one official national winner a year. And luckily, 3 of us have all lifted that trophy, and that's amazing. But not one of us would disagree that it's not a bad thing to share that love out and for it to filter down. And
absolutely.
It's nice to be recognised as officially the best, but you can only have one a year. Look how many chip shops there are that can benefit from, I know I would share the love. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, on that note, Mark, you mentioned your topic was temperature and how it affects trade. Can it make opening pointless, too hot or too cold? And what does the law actually say? So after I've read it out, I was going to say, what's your thoughts? But give us a little bit more depth.
Yeah, I do think we sort of covered it a little bit earlier. And I guess this has a different effect for where you're located as well. You know, there are some businesses, I'm sure, can't wait for it to get hot and for the good weather to come, particularly coastal shops or places where there are big tourist attractions. And for me, it's the only time my trade dips is when it gets really hot. And I just wanted to have a conversation really about it, what the law actually states, what you can and can't. You know, should there be a point where we have to close? How hot does it have to be? Do we just start having hydration breaks every 22 and a half minutes like they do in football? You know, what does everybody else do?
I was thinking about this. So there's quite a lot of shops that were like closing, and it felt a bit like when I saw this, like the domino effect that happened at COVID. You know,
we're all just being
when we were just waiting, and then one shop said, "I'm closing," and then the whole domino effect, everyone was just like, "Close, close, 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 close," and to the point where there's one shop that I follow, and they're in Worcestershire in a really nice touristic area, and I know the guy that owns the freehold, a really good friend of mine, and he said when the sun came out, anything over 25. He'd be open all day. He'd fill up the ice cream machine. He's going to sell loads of fish and chips, get extra staff on because it's going to be absolutely rammed. And that shop, who now rents off him, had decided to close. And he was just like, you know, he texts me and goes like, I can't believe they're closing. So yeah, it's a tough one, I guess. Like, Kelly, what do you think?
I'm going to be controversial. I think you just need to man up or woman up. Boiling point was made for a reason, right? The thermometer in Gordon Ramsay's kitchen, whatever it was hot. You're in hospitality. You chose to work in that environment. It's up to us as owners of businesses to make sure that our staff are hydrated. They, you know, if you can provide them with a lighter cotton t-shirt, then do. You know your team. You know how the level they work with. It was probably about 46 degrees in our kitchens. We've got fans on, we've got the aircon on, we've got air curtains. We gave them extra breaks. We discussed with them. I just think that if you're in hospitality, this is what you're in. I'm going to be really controversial. Suck it up. I'm sorry. I just, you know, don't get me wrong. I left my office and didn't go into work on Tuesday because I wasn't in the shop. And I did feel really guilty sat at home when it was bloody boiling at home and I knew what they'd be going through. But I sent them a message. I thanked them. I made sure that Exeter was hotter than it was here because they have no aircon. The fans are just blowing hot air. So we've invested 300 quid in a aircon unit that you fill it with water. So, you know, we've done our due diligence. And I had a guy before I went on holiday saying, it's illegal to work in this weather. You shouldn't be allowed. Well, no, it's not actually illegal. Just make sure that you're following health and safety. Let them go and put their feet in a bucket of cold water and dry their feet, put the Crocs on, wash their hands and get back inside. I'm sorry.
Or like you said earlier, Kelly, they can go outside and breathe in that hot air.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, like, what are you going to do? You're going to go home and be hot. At least you're earning money while you're hot with me. I just don't know. I'm a bit old school when it comes to things like that.
So my understanding is that there's no hard legal maximum temperature in the UK workplace. And I don't think there's one for cold either. So you can't say once it hits 30 degrees, everyone can down tools. Well, at the moment, because I think the government were talking about that next as well. But that doesn't mean employers can ignore it. The law puts a duty on employers to provide reasonable working environment and to manage health and safety risks. Heat is one of those risks. So the legal question is not just what does the thermometer say? The better question is the employer taking reasonable steps to keep people safe in the actual working conditions? So in an office, warehouse, fish and chip shop, commercial kitchen, etc., 30 degrees in an office is one thing. 30 degrees next to fryers, grills, ovens, steam, PPE is another thing. So in practice, the employer should be thinking about things like ventilation, fans, air conditioning where possible, lots of drinking water, extra breaks where possible, shade for outdoor workers, rotating jobs, reducing heavy work at the hottest part of the day. So I think that's pretty much what Kelly said, and adding a bit more. I think we used to do that. I remember Dad used to say you're allowed cans out of the shop. We used to put drinks in the freezer, let them have an extra fag break back then. Just let people. And also, it's quieter, for the most part, except for you, Kelly. For us a lot, it would be quieter. So you just, and lots of cleaning. They have their hands in water because they're always cleaning things. So Kelly, what do you think?
I was just going to say as well, with all due respect, what we do is valuable because we're a community and we're bringing fish and chips, to our local community, and they don't want to cook and, or the whatever it is, it's bringing family together. But my daughter's a midwife and she had to go and work in those temperatures. She didn't get a break for 12 hours. And I'm like, and the fan, they've got no aircon, no fans, no nothing, the windows are shut, the bloody heating's on because it's broken. I'm like, do you know what? And she's bringing life into the world. I'm serving fish and chips. My team is serving fish and chips. There's value around that, but there's people that are doing more important things in this world, and they're having to suffer more than we are. So I just think, I think as long as we as owners are looking after our team, that's what's important at the bottom of, the bottom line is let's look after our team and make sure that we're keeping an eye on them.
Yeah. Mark?
Just before David shares his insight, which I always enjoy, there's a couple of points I want to make. We risk assess it. We put fans in. We fill the freezer up with lollies from Aldi, and we give people more breaks. One thing I really insist on is everybody has to have a bath or a shower before they come into work. There's always one. And I won't name mine, but there's always a stinky one at work.
David's just thought of his one because he's laughing. Look,
there's always a stinky one at work, and rather than saying to something, "You stink," you need to go home and have a bath. I say I make it a blanket policy. You must shower before you come to work.
My dad would have just hosed them down.
Don't do the gardening, then come into work, and I don't want you stinking. Nobody likes a stinky work colleague.
Yeah.
Have a bath, have a shower, and then when you get home, have another one.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, have another one again.
Treat yourself.
Put on some antiperspirant, some deodorant. Don't mask the smell.
Well, you're not masking it,
Clean yourself first and take precautions.
Yeah. David, what do you think after Mark's rant, mate? Do you want a moment?
Jesus Christ, what sort of staff do you employ?
It is Chatteris, mate. It is Chatteris.
Some people in my town can't even walk on their back legs yet.
Well, thankfully, none of my staff are like that. Bloody hell, fire. Yeah, I just think I back up everything we've said. It is the job we do. It's hot.
It's nice in the winter, isn't it?
The moan in the winter. Can we have some more hoodies or whatever? And we provide for them, don't we? I think main thing is make sure you've got loads of water for them, and make sure that there's a summiting process where they need to get water. And if it gets too hot for people, make sure you're looking at people. If you think they're struggling, ask how they are. Just a bit of welfare. But no, if you're on duty and it's hot, that's it.
Staff have to also take personal responsibility also. So they can bring in their own drinks. Yeah. They can do all of these things.
Yeah, of course they can.
They can say to you, is it okay if I wear shorts? Providing I wear the right footwear. So there's so many things. Yeah. So we can't do everything. But on a side note, I was chatting to a customer the other day and he's got aircon. He's got a restaurant, but he's also got aircon. And he said, it's great because in the summer you can cool it. And in the winter, if it's a good system, you can have the warmth as well. But which made me think, and I think this is one of the issues that we see. It's a sort of a hidden issue. And I've spoken about this at great length on the podcast. But if you've got an older frying range, let's say an old Preston and Thomas, which you guys don't have, or an old, whatever, just a really old frying range, you guys have got brand new ranges pretty much, and they're Dutch. So if you touch the ducting, providing it's inside the building, it's cool to touch. Yeah. But I remember an old frying range that I went to a shop recently. It happened to be just before Christmas again. And I touched the ducting because it was visible and I burnt my elbow. Yeah. Because they're so hot and they've not got the modern what's it called, high efficiency systems that Dutch ranges have. And also modern British ranges have, high efficiency systems. So that is also going to be kicking off a lot of heat in the summer. And why nobody notices it in the winter is because it feels nice and cozy. When you've got the range on in the winter, you see people navigating themselves near the ducting. And I remember back in the day, that's what we used to do before we had the Dutch ranges. We used to do exactly that. So, and I remember staff saying to us, like you just said, David, in the cold, they'd be like, oh, can we get some hoodies? Can we get this? Can we get that? Because we don't realise that the ranges are now so much more efficient.
Yeah.
So, that's really interesting.
It's nice to know that there is no law in it.
No,
it's nice to know to everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say, hang on, don't jinx it, David.
So don't listen to people going, it's too hot, we shouldn't be working, all that. The law is on our side. Just make sure you look after them.
Yeah, look after yourselves and your staff. That's what's important.
Yeah. Leave the office and go home.
So the unions are pushing Labour for a temperature figure. So, you never know. They may get their way. Who knows?
Yeah.
And one last thing, the fish fridge keeps your wine cooler than the one at home. So it's a winner.
That sounds disgusting. Imagine fish dripping on your bottle. Nah, fish juices. No way. So, can't you put it in another fridge, Kelly, like the normal fridge?
No, the fish fridge is kept at like -3, so it's beautiful. God. And it's a clean tray. I'm not disgusted. I don't keep it in with the fish.
It'd have to be a clean tray on the top shelf.
I'm not a heathen.
You are from Swad. So Mark mentioned dynamic staffing, and by that I always saw that like dynamic, staggering staff. Mark says, do we do it? How flexible is your workforce when it goes quiet or going home? So Mark, give us a little bit of background on that. I think it comes off the back of what we've just discussed anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's something I know that they do at McDonald's.
They do that, yeah.
And they save themselves a fortune. And I wondered, not just for the sake of conversation, but to actually put it on people's radar as well, listeners, that you can have flexibility in your staffing, and you can have staff on that are on knowing that if it gets quiet, they're the first ones to be sent home, or you can have an opt-in policy where people can choose to be the one that gets to go home early if it's quiet. You can force breaks at a certain time. When it's quiet, you can say, right, you're going on your break now. And I wondered how people find, are their staff flexible with it, or do they enforce it?
I don't know how true it is today, because things have probably changed somewhat. But I know a few years ago, McDonald's used to have a system where, as it got quieter, their screens would go red. And then what would happen is they would send all their staff on breaks on every station, and then all the salaried staff would take over all the stations. But then as the screen starts to go green or amber, because it's getting busier, they know to bring staff in at a very controlled rate. Now, if they don't bring staff back in fast enough and it's really busy, it goes red again, because now they're losing money. They've not got enough staff. So there's algorithms at play here. The difference is McDonald's make all their staff clock in and out constantly. They don't send them home. They just send them on break. Now, I don't know if that's still legal. I've not checked it out. I don't know the answer to that. But I think we do need to be careful here, because I've got customers that stagger their staff. So what they'll do is they'll say, we get busy at 6, but we're open at 4:30. So they'll get one staff member in to help the opening, and then they'll bring 2 in at 4:30, another 2 at 5:30, let's say. And then at the other end, they'll taper off. So when the tea time tapers off at, let's say, 8:30, they'll send 2 home. And, those staff that are doing those hours know those hours. So no one's being shortchanged anywhere. So why we've got to be careful is because what you don't want is staff coming in expecting to do an 8-hour shift, and then you saying, all right, you're going to go home now, I don't need you, because now they've been put out. So that, and I think that, I'm not sure, Kelly may know, but is that illegal, Kelly, or is it just not very nice?
You have to make sure, if they're on contracted hours on the month, as long as their average hours is equal to their contract weekly, then you're fine. I actually, it works in reverse with us. So basically, in the winter, we do exactly what it's quiet. So we say to the staff, "Are you happy to go home?" And they'll go, yeah, I'd like to go home. And then what happens is it's a little bit like the sickness. It starts this culture. Well, he went home last night and I want to go home. It's my turn to go home. That's what I get. So basically we don't talk about it. We tell them that there's no right to go home. You're contracted to do your hours. Your hours are on the rota. We will offer you, and my team have to try and remember over a couple of week period who's on holiday, who's done this, who's done that, what time do they go home. Oddly, it actually links into something that one of my 17-year-old lads has brought to me. He has pulled all the data from RotaCloud, which is the Rota app that I used, built a program. You type in how many servers and how many fries you need on that shift, and it works out from RotaCloud who went home, who's been on holiday, and how many hours they've done, and who's done the favours. And then it gives you a list of all the people to keep and to send. And I was like, that's incredible. It took him an hour.
And that sort of thing is going to get so much easier with AI, isn't it? Like once, yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's used. A bit of AI and a bit of programming himself, put it together. And yeah, I just think you're right. Like, I think that I do think it's doable, and my staff.
So if someone hasn't got a contract in place, or at least a set amount of hours in that contract, then I think you've got to use a bit of common sense, haven't you? So if it's quiet, I think it's easier to say to staff, would one person like to go home? If you ask it quite loosely and it's really hot outside or it's snowing, then you could say, let's say there's 4 of you on, you could pick 1 or 2. And nice, I think this is allowed, isn't it, Kelly? And say, would you like to go home? And if they say, yeah, of course, I'd rather go home. I'm not bothered about losing the money because I'd rather be at home with my mates or something or whatever. Then that's okay, I think. But if you were to then force it and say you must go home and not get paid, that's where you fall foul a little bit, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they've got to. I mean, at the end of the day, you either have contracted hours or a casual contract. Your casual contract is 0 hour, and then you've got your hourly contracts. And if they're working 4 hours every week for a year, then you have to provide them with a contract.
And I would argue also, and Kelly, you'd know this, and Mark, well, actually, you probably all know this. I think it's harder to get staff in. So you're probably better off overstaffing for the most part, and then saying to some people, because there's always somebody who wants to go home, would you like to go home? And a friend of mine said this, he has the same problem where if he's trying to get a big crew on, he'll always overstaff it. And he'll just say casually, if anybody wants to go home, let me know if it's quiet. But if it's not quiet, he just carries on. Obviously, he's got everybody in. It's all hands on deck.
We have on-call shifts.
Okay.
So we don't break. So then that way I'm not losing out. So we start, we've been doing it for about 7 years now. So we'll staff it to what we think is going to happen. And if the weather's looking a bit iffy, we'll have an on-call shift, and they're on call for 6 hours, and they're fine with that. They don't get paid for it. It's just, it's outside of their contractual hours. So we ask them, are you happy to do on-call shifts? Yeah, I'm happy to pick up if I need to. And they know that if they're phoned at any time during that night, they've got to come in and they've got to work.
Do they get paid the same for that, or is that like a little bonus incentive there, or not really?
No, they get paid the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get a choice of, they do their set hours. They come to me and say, I want more. I'm really sorry, I haven't got them.
So it's a formal way of saying to people, do you want to pick up extra shifts, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Then there's no, and if the thing is, if they're on call, they tend not to go out with it. I mean, you try getting your staff in on a 30-degree day when their mates are down the beach.
Not happening, is it? Yeah.
No.
So, Mark, your question then made me think about staggering and the likes of what McDonald's do. I don't see the issue with staggering. And a friend of mine, he worked at McDonald's in Cyprus, and he said staggering was the norm, and he does it over here. He said he does not want to open on a Friday with all his staff standing there from 4:30. It just doesn't make sense to him. And he doesn't want them all there till 9 o'clock. But it did make me think, if that's happening a lot and you're having to do a lot of this, are you opening too many hours normally? And how often would any of you have a review in your opening hours?
Well, I'm only open 26 hours a week.
So you're not at risk of... No.
No, I know that I'm making money every single one of them. But at this time of year, I know I'm shutting too early. I shut on a Friday and a Saturday, I'm done at 8 o'clock. I know I could go till 10 and take more money. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
And I also know that when I open at 5, it doesn't really start to get going till 5:30. And when it's hot, I should shift my hours from 6 till 9 instead of 5 till 8. Can you
do that on such short notice, though?
No,
I was say
I don't, but I should.
But you say that. But if you knew 2 months ago that this was going to be a heat wave for that week, you could probably say then, okay, I'm going to work to that. But
I could use social media and other means. I've got push notifications through my apps, and I could say it's so warm, we're going to stay open an extra hour for you tonight, and we would be subscribed. The app would fill up. I just don't want to, Stel.
I meant more so
next week I become
opening
pensionable,
earlier.
so.
Sorry, that's what I meant more so. Just like opening, changing things like that. I think people need lots of time to adjust and think because they make their plans ahead of time. David, anything from you, young sir?
Just very, very similar. We stagger. We always say, would anybody like to go home? I don't think we've ever had anybody go, no, I don't. Everybody wants to go home. So we start off for skeleton at 4 o'clock, and as it picks up, we bring them in. Well, at 5 o'clock, another team, more coming to help. And then around 8 o'clock, once the tidying up's been done and we're winding down, we'll go, does anybody want to go home? And invariably, somebody puts their hand up. And never anyone gone, no, we're not going, we're staying.
Is it not usually the person that always asks for extra shifts that wants to go home early?
I've never noticed that.
Ones that learn about money are always the ones that go over.
But
and do you text your staff from the pub saying, does anyone want to come and join me?
Never.
Maybe he doesn't know where the pub is. Although when we were in York, he could have took us blind. Yeah.
I knew a lot of people, didn't I? It's quite funny that. And like you, Matt, we only open 31 hours, so it's concentrated in what we do. And going back to opening hours, I think if you start swapping and changing, people, as Stel says, they know when you open, and to get that message over would take at least 6 months to let them know you open. But in summer, if we're still sort of busy, the staff use their intelligence and serve after, it's not like bang, we shut at 9 o'clock. If there's people in, they'll keep going. Yeah. But there is a cut-off point, Yeah. But it's only for a short period, isn't
exactly.
Yeah, summer's normally on a Tuesday, isn't it?
Inland shops, it's only a short period. So, but I think, you've got to have things in place for staff to go home, but you need to do it when it's on their side, really. And as long as they know what the deal is when they come and work for you.
The funny thing is, all of last week I carried on going training, and a lot of people that I'm training with are like, oh, it's so hot, oh, it's so hot, oh, it's so hot. And one guy says to me, he goes, are you not hot? And I was like, I'm just not thinking about it, mate. And he goes, but it's so hot. And I was like, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I said, I spent all of my life working and living in a fish and chip shop. So when the heat comes, you just shut up and put up, and that's it. And he was like, oh my God, but it's so hot. And I was like, really? When you work in a fish and chip shop, I think it sort of like conditions you. Like it really does.
I've coped so much better than everyone else I know. It's mental. Everybody's like moaning and whinging and melting, dripping like candles that have been left on. They're just melting. And I'm like,
you just and also if you keep saying it doesn't help. Like if you walk around all the time saying, oh, it's hot. Yeah, all right, mate. Oh, it's hot. All right, yeah, we'll get it. It's hot. All right. Stop saying it, because you wouldn't point out anything else like that all day long, would you?
We're a nation of moaners. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, we do bike deliveries. So if anyone's moaning about being hot, we always go do a few deliveries really fast. That'll cool you down.
Yeah. So
most of my staff are female, and they say, "Oh, I'm really sweating," and I say, "Women don't sweat; they glow." And then I'm glowing like a pig.
So last topic, Mark. You wanted to talk about profit versus turnover. Does the old saying that turnover is vanity hold true more than ever these days? Is what you're selling even more important? So, Mark, give us a little rundown.
Yeah. So, I've always had this saying drummed into me that turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. And in my business, certainly over the last 12 months, I've only experienced slight growth in my turnover. It hasn't gone up. It hasn't dropped, but it hasn't gone up as much as in previous years. And I can we can always find excuses. You could say it's cost of living. You could say it's because you've had price rises. There's could be the weather. There's loads of reasons why footfall can be down. But when I look at my profit, and I look in particular at the amount of fish that I'm selling, there's been massive changes in the DNA of what makes up my business. So although at first view my business looks like it's a steady ship. What I've actually managed to do is navigate it through some tricky waters, and my fish sales are down. I'm not sure if the number of units of fish that I'm selling is down, or if it's because I'm cutting it differently, got rid of the less profitable items on my menu. But I'm certainly buying less fish, and I think the proportion of my sales is lower, even though I've had price increases on fish. But I'm selling more profitable items. So the growth of my business shrinking doesn't really worry me. I'm still ahead of my bills. Replacing my stock is not costing me what it was costing me, because the more expensive commodities I'm buying less of. So that tells me my business is actually quite healthy, even though the numbers don't tell me that actually what I'm purchasing. So that's why I thought it would be an interesting topic for my peers to share with me their experience, but also for the listener to maybe think about their business and how they're doing too. That's why I thought it was a good subject.
Actually doing really well, actually. We're up, and also the profit is, and I think that's what you've got to look at. Is the profit shifting the same as the turnover? And if it is, then you are doing the right thing. If it's the same, but you've gone up in turnover, then you've got a problem somewhere, and you need to dig deep. And I think in these climate we're in, everything you said, Mark, is relevant. You've just got to dig in, look at your menu, look at your stock, just make sure you're on it, and get them scales out. They don't lie. Weigh everything. Make sure you're not giving stuff away. Make fish cakes. Get promotions on. These sort of things. It's really, really important to dig in at this time in our sort of business climate at the moment. And it is about the profit, Mark. You're dead right, and it is for vanity. It's like when you used to go to shops and they'd say, "I do 100 bags a week," and you go, and when you were younger, you'd be dead impressed, and then you find out they're rumbling for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think as you get older in business, you learn that it's irrelevant what you take. It's about what that profit is. And the biggest one you've just said there, Mark, can you pay HMRC? Can you pay your VAT? Can you pay your supplies on time? And are you not robbing the business? And I think that is everything that you almost summed up there, is being in front of your bills. And if you're not, then you've got a problem somewhere.
So I think, Mark, when you first said this saying years ago, I was younger, and I thought, "Oh, he's right, he knows what he's on about."
Yeah.
And the saying, there's something to the saying, like, in very short form, there's something quite catchy about it, And I think, broadly speaking, it's sort of right,
It still holds true.
There's something to it, broadly. But I think, and it's not you, by the way, none of us is this, I think it can fall into a lazy binary thinking, black-white. Yeah, because it only gives us two options. Yeah, so I think and I think running a business needs more nuance. So, for example, turnover is vanity, profit is sanity is useful warning if someone is chasing sales with no margin. But for a fish and chip shop takeaway, it can be a bit simplistic, I think. Volume matters because the business has fixed and semi-fixed costs. So whether you're busy or quiet, rent rates, energy, insurance, that all matters. And it's what I've always said, like, the more people you can put through the business with your fixed costs, the better you are. So a friend of mine's got a chip shop and he rents it. It's not his. He rents it off the landlord, who isn't a chip shop owner. It's a mixed use court. He only pays the rent, covers his gas and electric or utilities. So for every other customer he serves, all he's got to worry about is food costs and VAT. He doesn't have to worry about staffing unless he does considerably more. But if he just does 10 customers a day more, he's winning. So the real question is not turnover versus profit, it's profitable throughput. A quiet shop with good margin on paper is still a quiet shop. A busy shop with poor portion control, poor pricing, poor labour control, like David said, is just pricing itself into a much harder job. The sweet spot is enough volume going through the business at the right margin with the right systems. Pretty much what David said. Yeah. So I think in simple terms, once the lights are on, the fries are hot and the staff are in, extra profitable sales are very powerful because the overhead is already being carried. So yes, turnover can be vanity if it's bad turnover, but profitable volume is actually what drives business forward. And I think that, for me, it adds the complexity to that nice, easy comment. I think, and that nice, easy comment comes from somewhere it's been chiseled out of something like what I just said. And I think everyone just uses it freely now. But I don't think, if you guys had the choice of, I don't know, a 10 grand a week shop and 40%, if you had a 10 grand a week shop with 40% GP and a 20 grand a week shop at 20% GP, you're going to start thinking, I'm going to start picking what I want here, and I think,
where is it still? Where is it for sale?
I know a shop in Hacksby doing like £70,000 a week with a 90% GP. No, joking aside, I think David is so right, and it's something we spoke about on the masterclasses that we can't emphasize enough. Check your numbers, check everything, and when you think you've checked it, check again. And I was talking. You go on, David.
Sorry, it's little things like, what's your consistency of your curry? Is it that every time you serve a pot of curry, is it that? Have some water, make sure you keep thinning it down, make sure it's right, because it all adds up, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it's recipes, isn't it? You've got to make sure.
What we do today is the same as tomorrow, and it's a fortune. And I think people who've worked with me and who's maybe gone through the training school or whatever heard me say this so many times. A lot of chippies are trying to be a business. I'm a business that just happens to be a fish and chip shop, and that is a massive difference. Absolutely massive difference. I agree.
And what is it? What is it? A good carpenter will say: measure twice, cut once. Yeah. And if you're not calculating anything, if you're not looking at potato yields, fish yields, you can't make solid decisions. But you just can't. And I know this is something we always end up getting back to generally on this podcast. But it's so true. So, Mark, I do think it still holds true with that extra context. And I think...
Well, I'll still use it.
No, but you do those things. That's why it's relevant to you. You do those things. But many will just listen to that and say, turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. I want my margin to be 70-80%. And they'll stick there, even if the shop's taking $4,000 a week. And I'm not saying that's bad, by the way. If the numbers work for you, then they work. But what I'm saying is it stops you from chasing growth. And that's what a takeaway business should be. The more people you can serve in your allotted time, the better you are. And it's not like selling a Ferrari. You sell 3 of those, you're good, but this is different.
And that comes back to what Mark said. So if you have a busy time and you can get staff where you can stagger them in, you can get more customers.
Absolutely. Fine-tune it.
And people will go, I'll go to Miller's or I'll go to Crispy's or I'll go see Mark Petrou Brothers, because I know when I go, they get me through that door really quick and the food's good. So it all works together, doesn't it? It all starts to slot into place. And it's guys, it's about the profit. And you've got some great things on the website, haven't you, Stel, to just help you with that, and do it. You'd be amazed how many people haven't a clue what that piece of fish that they're going to fry costs them.
Well, at the risk of saying a story again, because I know we do get the same listeners, and we do get the odd new one. So a few months ago, I was at a shop. The guy says to me, cod's expensive. We were chatting about it like we normally do, because that's the topic that, I've heard it a million times, but he's living it daily, so I get it. So he's talking about it. We put in a piece of fish. I said, what weight is it? He goes 7 ounces. And I'm holding this fish in my hand. And it's a loin. It was fresh, but it's a loin for a 32 plus type fish. And I'm holding it thinking, nah, man, if that's 12, if that's 12 ounces all day long, and I'm like, that is 12 ounces all day long. Anyway, I put a piece in, it just drops. Get another one, drops. So I go to the car, I get a set of scales out, I get a can of Coke, zero them just to check, put a piece of fish on. What was it? 11.5 ounces. And he said, Stel, he goes, I've never once checked my fish. And I pointed him to the master classes we've done with you, David, pointed him to the calculators. And then his next worry was, I've made a mistake for so long, what do I do now? And I was like, you can't overreact. You've just got to move slowly into that direction. And either put your price up or introduce a smaller fish under it that is 7 ounce, 8 ounce, and do a special offer with that and hopefully move. But obviously, when you're selling a fish that you thought was a 7 ounce for 12 ounce, like that's mental. And I'm not mocking him. He's a lovely person and he's dealing with his issues. But the problem is a lot of people who are grandfathered into the business, like Mark, David, Kelly, not so much, me, we just took what our parents told us. Oh, I can do it by eye. I can do it like this. Oh, my dad never did anything like measured. I could do it by eye while he had a cigarette in his mouth while he was doing everything. Like, like I'd say to my dad, like, how many what weight do you lose when you peel potatoes? I don't know. Look how beautiful they are. Dush. Like, and that was it. I'm the best at this, and that was it. I don't know. And like, so now when we actually have to measure these things, like, it's harder, like, and I get it. So I felt for him because he was in the same position I was in when I first started working for my dad, and like, so I'm not mocking him. I felt for him. Like, it's a shame, and once you know the figures, you start, the truth bombards your brain. Now you actually have to act on it. And that's why we've got the calculators.
And become a business.
Yeah. And that's why we've got the calculators. Yeah. He rang me afterwards and he goes, Stel, I've just put on your calculator, 12 ounce fish. It's costing me this much. I was like, I sort of knew that. And he goes, it means I'm losing money. And I was like, yep. And he goes, now I understand when you said, because I said it, I couldn't help myself. He goes, now I understand when you said, this is my problem, not the fish merchant's problem. I couldn't help myself, obviously. Yeah. So, but there's a lot of lovely people in this industry and it's really hard for them. So whatever tools you can use in your toolbox to make it work, do so.
And if you're struggling, reach out.
David, Mark and Kelly will all help. I'm far too busy. No, I'm not really. If you need help, do get in touch.
Reach out.
So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And at the very least, jump on the website and have a look at the calculators. They don't cost you anything. They're free to use. They don't have to log in. They're just there. Like, but if you do need help, one of us will help where we can. And if you get in touch with me, I'll put you in touch with one of these anyway.
So, did I think I might have told you personally the story of Arthur Parrington. You remember Arthur Parrington, don't you?
I only remember him in person. I never met him though. Yeah.
Absolute legend. And
loved Arthur.
He used to go on fantastic holidays, cruises, you name it. He had a little shop. And people used to say to him, how do you afford to go on all these fantastic holidays? He said, well, it's my wife. He said, we have a wall range and she makes a really big fuss of people, comes in and the massive shovel of chips go into the paper. And as she turns around, she takes 10 off.
That's brilliant. I love
just a little shake.
I've never heard
it's
that.
The same.
None the wiser.
None the wiser. Just killed him with kindness. Wrapped it up. See you, love. Have a nice day.
Brilliant.
Well, on that note, guys, it's been amazing. Thank you for your time today. And
thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we've missed anything. We've probably gone a bit in depth. And but yeah, that's good. I like it. And hopefully David will be back to join us after his summer holidays. Guys, have a good one.
Cheers.
See you guys. Bye.